Hey folks! In this video you'll learn how the new DONNER L1 synthesizer performs as a SH11 replacement and what I think of this instrument. Stay tuned. Intro. I'm finally back with a new video. In the meantime, I've moved from Berlin to France and I took advantage of this to build a completely new studio in my new vintage home. It's no longer in the living room, but has been given its own room. More on that and a little room tour in another video. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel. In the meantime, Donna sent me the L1 synthesizer for a review. That's why I'm a little late, so I'll keep it short and focus on the following points. First, is the L1 a good alternative to the SH101, from which it draws a lot of inspiration in terms of sound? 2. What can the L1 do that his vintage predecessor can't? And third, what are the biggest disadvantages? Only at a second glance do you realize that the Donner L1 is suspiciously reminiscent of the good old Roland SH101 from the 80s. And unlike the Behringer NS1, it completely dispenses with any vintage look and comes in a rather light, modern, shiny Chinese plastic case. The faders feel a bit inconsistent and cheap, but they work perfectly. Whether they will last 40 years, as with the old made in Japan Rolands, is of course another matter. Another interesting innovation is the small optional controller keyboard. No cables or connectors are needed to connect it to the main unit of the synth. Instead, a magnetic coupling is used to hold the whole thing together. This is fine for a home studio, but I would be cautious with using it live, as it can be separated relatively easily. The keyboard has really small mini keys that don't offer any particular playing feel. Therefore, I would only recommend the optional keyboard to those who don't have anything better or who appreciate its very compact form factor. But in any case, it's definitely an interesting innovation in the synthesizer field. Well done. On closer inspection, you'll notice that it has some additional features compared to the SH101 that are really useful. Starting from the left, there's the revised LFO, also called modulator. This has been supplemented with a button that shifts the frequency into the audible range. This is good if, for example, you want to create FM-style sounds. In addition, the LFO can be synchronized with MIDI, which I did not really get to work with my DAW. And there's even a LFO retrigger function accessible via the menu. The VCO, which incidentally is based on a replica of the CEM3340 chip, just like the original and the Behringer MS1, remains unchanged from the 101. However, there are two additional features in the mixer section. Firstly, a triangle wave has been added, and secondly, there's an additional fader for the audio input. This is pretty cool and expands the sounds variety. In the VCF filter section, everything remains the same. Here you can adjust the effect of envelope 1, the LFO and the keyboard pitch on the 24 dB low-pass filter with resonance. The filter of the Donner L1 is also based on a replica of the 3109 filter chip used in old Rolands, just as the VCA is based on the BA622 chip. As far as I know, these chips all come from Cool Audio / Behringer, which should actually mean that the L1 and the MS1 sound pretty much identical. The most noticeable difference is in the envelope section. Here you finally find two full-fledged LDSR fader sets for the filter envelope and the VCA envelope. This is a really great addition, especially since the VCA envelope also received an additional cycle and drone mode. The cut-down envelope section has always been the biggest weakness of the old Roland synths like the 101, the 202 and also the polyphonic Juno series. Below the sound fader section there's a row of buttons for controlling the arpeggiator and the sequencer. The arpeggiator comes with the usual up and down modes and goes over 3 octaves. The sequencer is also rather simple to use. And by the way, all the sequences in my demo are made with the onboard arp and sequencer. On the right hand is a small OLED display that can be used to set all the global parameters of the synthesizer. This is really good and makes it pleasantly easy to use. At this point, I would like to draw a comparison with the Behringer MS1, which is much closer to the SH101 in terms of appearance and features. I think Donner's solution is significantly better. In my opinion, the appearance is the least important aspect of a synthesizer clone. And if instead some features are added that the original always lacked, then that's definitely a very good thing. And of course, the sound is the most important factor. And here, Donner has absolutely convinced me and my colleague Hannes, who made this dark techno demo for this video with it. It definitely comes extremely close to the real 101, and I would even say that the Donner L1 has a little more low end. The envelopes are also quite snappy, so everything a decent bass synth needs is on board. I don't want to bore you with hours of A-B comparisons here, So I refer you to the comprehensive video by my colleague Starsky K. The Behringer MS-1 Mark II was much less convincing to me. What remains the same with both replicas, however, is the fact that you can't set your original 101 sounds one-to-one via fader positions, as the scaling also differs significantly with the Donner. But that's probably a disadvantage you have to accept with any synthesizer remake. But now to the disadvantages, and there are some. So, that was quite a lot of praise by my standards, right? But anyone who knows me will be aware that I also like to take a closer look to the details. The worst annoyance is Donner's software app, which is used to update the firmware and configure global settings. It's a complete disaster because nothing works with it. And not only that, the app even managed to crash everything on my Mac, including the Finder and even Ableton Live, something that never happens. Unfortunately, Donner's support wasn't much help either. After about 25 attempts with different computers, I finally managed to update the firmware to the latest version. But that probably was just luck. Therefore, I cannot recommend using the Donner app at all. Especially not if you have your DAW open and are working on a project. Fortunately, you can also set all the global parameters via the small display on the device itself. And here I have to say again that Behringer is way ahead with its Synthtribe app and is doing everything right in this regard. Another disadvantage for me is the USB MIDI connection. When my Mac goes into sleep mode, so does the MIDI connection to the Donner L1. The only thing that helps is to turn it off and on again, and away is your last programmed sequence. Plugging and unplugging the cable doesn't help, unfortunately. I would have preferred to use normal DMIDI, but sadly the Donner only has a mini jack connection for MIDI and a suitable adapter cable was not included with the device. And MIDI clock sync via USB is and remains a total disaster, but that's due to the nature of the matter and not especially to the synth's hardware. Therefore, I can't really give a definitive assessment of the sync behavior of the arpeggiator and the sequencer. Finally, I got it to work, but I had a lot of things to modify in Ableton. But that's about it in terms of disadvantages, and if Donner does its homework with the app and includes a suitable MIDI cable, there's really nothing to complain about. Except the fact that I didn't got the LFO sync function to work either. So here's my conclusion. The Donner L1 is a classic bass synth that is technically very similar to the Roland SH101. What sets it apart from other clones is the fact that it has added features that were sorely missed in the original. That's a very positive thing. Otherwise, this is certainly not a high-end synth, rather it is clearly in the entry-level price range. The whole thing is somewhat reminiscent of Casio from the 80s in terms of its plastic feel. The keyboard is also more of a gimmick and should only be ordered if you don't have room for something bigger and better, even with cables on your studio desk. I would also have loved if they had added an overdrive like on the TD3 MO. And a basic delay chorus section wouldn't have been bad either. But come on, for just under $300 the Donner L1 is a really good SH101 style sound generator. Because in terms of sound, this little thing is really impressive. If you now want to order one, please use the affiliate link in the description. There you will get a nice discount with the code Wine&Synths. So that's it for the video. I hope to see you again soon, and until then I wish you lots of fun making music. Peace, auf Wiedersehen and à bientôt!